All right, Coulrophobics Anonymous, week 6. What an eventful week 5 it was. We'll get to the power rankings after a little waiver and trade action. The biggest waiver move of the year went down. Bootsy picked up Tim Tebow for $78, much to my chagrin. I bid $69, my full budget on him. I traded with Ted to try and pick up some more free agency money. Really, I thought Plotzker was going to be the number one guy going after Tebow. It just seemed like his style. So I traded to get enough money to get in front of him, but it turns out I needed to get in front of Bootsy. Tebow is fantasy gold. I mean, he runs for touchdowns, and he can't throw, but he does the best with what he can. I mean, he was a baller the last 3 weeks of last season, so that's a huge pickup for Bootsy. He now has a really good core of quarterbacks. Another big move, Plotzker got Ryan Grant for $50. I view this as a pretty big over expenditure. Not that it's a terrible pickup. I mean, he does start over James Starks, and I mean, it is a good offense, and Plotzker's going to need him for his bye weeks that are coming up, but I think he could have had him for a half, maybe a fourth of the money. There wasn't much of a market for Ryan Grant, so I think $50 is a lot. That being said, Plotzker is a first-place team. He's got a really nice roster. The free agency money doesn't really mean as much to him, so no big deal. Also, Oaks gets Darius Hayward-Bay for $12 in loving memory of Al Davis. It's a nice pickup. DHB, he's really come on the last couple of weeks, and the Raiders, look like they're going to have a pretty good season. So I think that's a nice pickup. Late trade action just went through today. Deutsch gives Matt Schaub and Deshaun Jackson to Ben for Brandon Lloyd and Fred Jackson and Mark Sanchez. It's pretty even, actually. I think the winner is Ben by a small margin. Deshaun Jackson's had a couple of great games this year, and wide receiver, is a need for Ben, so that'll work out well for him. And Matt Schaub, has been a little shaky, but once Andre Johnson comes back, Ben's going to have a nice combo there. Meanwhile, Brandon Lloyd, I think, is worthless now that Tebow's in there, but Sanchez has some nice upside. The Jets, for some reason, love to pass it, and Fred Jackson, is a Pro Bowler this year. He's having a great fantasy season, so it's a nice pickup for Deutsch. It's not like a total loss, but I like Ben's side of it more. All right, getting to the power rankings, starting at the back. Brian Deutsch, number 12, another week at the bottom. Deutsch went 0-2 last week. He hasn't won since beating Oaks in week 2. Matt Schaub had a nice game for him, but he just traded him away. So we'll see if this trade can light a fire under the ass of some of his other guys, but so far not going too well for him. Number 11, Ariel, somehow got docked a point. I thought I had checked the live scoring on Sunday, and he was at 60. I went to go check it today, and he was down to 59, which is a horrific score. Orton is literally worthless now that he's been benched. Not that he was not worthless last week. I think he put up negative points. Also, Mike Williams has been a complete joke. He even said so himself today. Coming in at number 10, Billy. Say what you will about him running into high-scoring teams and having some bad luck, but I think Billy's squad is a little shaky. His bench is ugly, and some of his starters, Kellen Winslow, Reggie Wayne, Julio Jones just got hurt. Big Ben, he had a great game last week, 5 touchdowns, but he's pretty unreliable. In at number 8, Justin, the kid himself. Justy got a walkover win in playing Ariel this past week. So despite putting up the second lowest total in the league, Justin still found himself going 1-1. Rivers finally delivered, but he's still starting Thomas Jones and Aurelius Ben. I don't think it's things are not working out real well for him. In at number 9, Ben. A promising start has kind of faded for Ben. He's gone 1-3 the last 2 weeks. Matt Ryan's unimpressive season is continuing, and Brandon Lloyd is certainly not helping, especially not with Tebow in there. Tebow can't really stretch the field, so Lloyd's main skill set is basically unusable in that offense. But Ben still, like I said, had that nice promising start, has a decent team. He still has some work to do. In at number 7, Andrew Oaks. Josh Freeman has been a real letdown for him. Despite the emergence of Ryan Matthews, Oaks kind of has yet to find any real consistency. 1 week he's putting up high points, 1 week he's, sort of struggling a little bit. So, Oaks needs to get some things figured out. But, Darius Hayward-Bay could be a nice pickup for him. It could solidify wide receiver. In at number 6, I put myself. Oaks is at 7. I'm at 6. Oaks has a 1-game lead on me, but I've beaten Oaks twice this season, so I can't possibly rank him in front of me. Actually, not only did I beat him twice this year, but I just beat him with my disgusting Blaine Gabbert, Michael Bush led JV squad this past weekend, which, by the way, went 2-0. I think I have the best core of wide receivers in the league, especially with the emergence of Cruz, but with Fitzgerald, Steve Smith, and Des Bryant. So that's the strength of my team. Obviously, quarterback is a serious weakness for me. I really could have used Tebow. It would have been very nice. But, I have faith in Sam Bradford. I think he can turn it around. Their schedule gets a little bit lighter. That's really the only thing that would save my season. So I need that to happen. As far as number 5 is concerned, Andrew Denenberg. D is the Seahawks. He's the Seattle Seahawks. And we'll touch on a little bit more in the mailbag, but he's really feasting on an embarrassing division. Vic is putting up nice fantasy numbers for him, but he's been pretty awful in real life. Not like that matters. The turnovers have been kind of hurtful to Denenberg's fantasy chances there. Frank Gore has really turned it on, and Mike Wallace is reliable as ever. So Denenberg has a pretty nice squad. In at number 4, Bootsy. Bootsy, he needed every last second of garbage time to beat Billy this past weekend, but he does have a nice team regardless of that. With the addition of Tim Tebow, Bootsy now has a really good core of quarterbacks with Cutler and Stafford and with Tebow in there. So he'll be able to play the matchups and can get some really nice rotation going there. In at number 3, Kraus. Despite going 0-2 last weekend when he had some big matchups, he had some things to prove, and he lost both of them. Kraus is still in pretty good shape. Beanie Wells, Wes Welker have really been fantastic. Even new addition Sean Green had a good week last week. We'll see how long he can keep that up for. It's not really LaDainian Tomlinson that you have to worry about. It's just his own inability, that really holds him back. So we'll see how that works out. A strong number 2, a clear-cut number 2, Jason Plotzker. He took out Kraus last weekend, and he's really laid claim to the title of easily the second best team in the league. Aaron Rodgers, is the best singular fantasy player in fantasy football. And this week with St. Louis, it's just an epic mismatch. St. Louis, that's Green Bay has the best passing attack in the league, and St. Louis has the worst secondary in the league. So should be a good week for Plotzker. I unfortunately play him. And in at number 1, Ted Rifkin. Really, I'll talk about Ted's team in detail when he loses. If he loses. So congrats, Ted. As far as some of the big matchups, some of the big showdowns for this weekend, we get a early Clown Bowl preview, potentially. Ariel versus Deutsch. Loser plummets to the bottom of their terrible division. The other big showdown, myself versus Jason Plotzker. It's not that big for Plotzker, but it's big for me. It's sort of a fight for fantasy relevance, and it could really help my chances in competing for a division title. So those are the big matchups. All right, let's open up the old mailbag. We got a couple of good ones this week. First one addresses a topic that I had already touched on slightly. Dear Mr. Bauer, if the 2011 Schindler Division played the 2010 NFC West in a best-of-5 rock-paper-scissors contest, who would win? My guess is all parties involved would mistime their throws, sometimes on shoots, sometimes on scissors, and ultimately fall to the ground, defecating and drooling all over themselves. Andrew D. P.S. Fuck cruisermobiles. He tried to trade me Welker and Fitzpatrick for Vic and Gore, citing their keeper potential, not realizing I'm currently winning my admittedly weak division. All right, well, it's coming from Andrew Denenberg, if you couldn't guess. I agree with your vision of things, Denenberg. It's difficult to say which division is more futile. The NFC West from last year put in a playoff team with a losing record, which is pretty shameful. There does stand a strong chance that the winner of your division, could be you, could finish with a worse record than a second-place team from another division that ends up missing out on the wild card. That should be mildly entertaining. For the love of God, let's pray that it's not Ben. All right. Second question, speaking of Ben, what do you think about the risk of a 2-year keeper contract, especially by position? Running backs have short shelf lives. Young quarterbacks can take a full 2 years to develop, etc. And that comes from Ben Boris. This is an interesting question, Ben. This is something that really we all need to deal with pretty soon. We initially passed the keeper rules. I was instantly excited about the prospect of locking down my good players and building a dynasty, getting things rolling. I didn't really think for a second about the downside. Now we have yet to really settle things. I know that that's going to be a weenie talk thing when we're settling. What the actual penalty is, what the downside will be. But it's clear that dropping a 2-year keeper, whether it's losing a roster spot or a cash penalty, there's going to be some type of ramification. So this makes the keeper decision process much more important. For example, look at my team, Des Bryant. I drafted for under $40. I think it was like $38. Looks like a great 2-year keeper initially. However, he's a constant injury risk. So who knows? Maybe he tears his ACL week 1 next year, week 1 of year 2, or more realistically, because he's such a douchebag, what if he holds out in year 2 of my keeper contract? That's the last year of his rookie deal. I don't think it's stretching the bounds of possibility for him to hold out, which would screw me. As you mentioned, Ben, there exists enhanced risk attached to certain players at certain positions. The safest bets at keepers right now look like young, up-and-coming quarterbacks. Before the season started, I would have grouped Josh Freeman in that group, but he's sort of sputtered this year. I would say Cam Newton is chief among them because of his low cost, but frankly, Matt Stafford, Eli Manning look like pretty good options as well when you balance out cost and fantasy productivity. Running back is a little bit murkier. There kind of exists a difficult middle ground between high-priced starters and replaceable committee-type backs. So, you really wouldn't want to commit to either one of those. It's tough to say, really. It's just going to sort of be a case-by-case basis. You'll see some teams, I bet you probably won't use their 2-year keeper option for those very reasons. So similar to the state of marriage in this country, you're going to have to put a lot of thought into who you want to keep and who you want to keep for just 2 years. All right, last question. Dear Mr. Bauer, did you ever see The Family Guy where Peter is a master pianist, but only when he's plastered drunk? With Andrew Oakes committing to a month of no booze, will we see the opposite effect? That is, will the October version of Oakes be completely different? Will he be a completely different person from the one we've all known and grown to love? What types of changes are in store? I'm scared. Well, this is an interesting question, and actually, this mailbag question was the first way that I found out Andrew was even doing this Sobertober. So I reached out to him. I figured, his response would be better than mine. So without further ado, I'll share with you a little voicemail from our sober commissioner.
Sobertober. I recommend all to try it. So far, well, let me say it's not going through the entire month. It ends October 28th, just in time for Halloween. In case you guys don't know yet, we are having a Halloween party in Montana. Tell your friends, especially your lady friends. I'll be ship-faced drunk, I'm sure. It'll be a great time. So far, mixed results. I do feel a little better. It's nice being able to remember things from the prior night or even from hours or mere minutes ago. That is a benefit. I quickly did a little estimate and figured I'd saved about close to $900 this past weekend by not drinking. So I don't even usually have $900 on me, so I don't know how that's exactly possible, but it happened. I'm actually a little sick. Got sick Sunday and have been sick since then. So I'm not sure if that's related to the non-drinking. That could be a problem if that is the case. Might have to get back on the bottle sooner than later. But seriously, I recommend everyone tries it. It's great. Sobertober, live it, love it. John Carlson's doing it as well, so I recommend all to try it. I promise, Plotsker, I'll be back November. Could be the same, or could be even worse. Could be just moderately drinking. I went to a bar last weekend, and being in a bar completely sober is a life-changing experience. It was kind of scary. But I'll be back, Bobsky. Don't worry about it. Until then, I'll leave you with the words of Larry Byrne. No more booze. Later, guys.